The title of today's webinar is Vishwanath Dham, Sri Kashi Vishwanath Precinct Development, Varanasi. It will be presented by Dr. Bimal Patel. To give you more information about the session, I will now hand over to Ashish.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I hope you can hear me clear. Um, so I'm here, and I have a privilege to sit next to Dr. Bimal Patel. And I'll just give you his brief introduction. Um, an eminent architect, Dr. Bimal Patel is an urbanist and academic who has crisscrossed disciplinary, professional, and institutional boundaries to explore how architecture, urban design, and urban planning can enrich the lives of people in Indian cities. He received his diploma in architecture from CPT, CEPT, Ahmedabad in 1984, and his graduate degrees in architecture and urban planning are a doctorate in urban planning from UC Berkeley in 95. He heads HCP, a multidisciplinary design, planning, and management practice based in Ahmedabad, India. There he has led work on many residential, institutional, commercial, housing, industrial, and urban design and planning projects. In 96, Dr. Patel founded Environmental Planning Collaborative, a not-for-profit consultancy, policy research, and advocacy organization. EPC's innovative work has transformed planning and urban design in Gujarat. Since 2012, he heads CPT University as its president. His work has won numerous awards. In 2019, this year, he was awarded the Padma Shri, one of the highest awards by the government of India. Yeah, so I'll invite Dr. Patel to please take over and let us through this wonderful topic, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ashish. So I'm going to talk about this project, which is the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir Precinct development. Let me get on with the presentation straight away. Yeah, okay. Okay, here we are. Okay, I'm going to talk about first a few words about Varanasi, then the Mandir Precinct, then the master plan that we have developed for the precinct, then some issues related to communicating the plan, progress up to now, interpretations of the project, and finally the project in context. So let me get on with the presentation straight away. So first about Varanasi. Here you can see a slide. This is a satellite picture. You can see Varanasi, the Ganga flowing from the west to the east. And here you can see the urban agglomeration of Varanasi. And here we come a little closer. You can see Varanasi is situated on the bend of the Ganges. The river flows from below upwards. It's going from west to east. That big pattern you see on the bottom portion of the screen is the Banaras Hindu University, and the rest of the white agglomeration is Varanasi. It's a sacred city and a pilgrimage destination. It has been for hundreds of years. It has been a pilgrimage destination. You find old routes of pilgrimage here and very, very old references to this place as a sacred city. Today also it remains an important pilgrimage destination. As you can see here, thousands of pilgrims flock to the city and to the Ganges here. It's a city of myths and legends, and many stories associated with it is what makes up Varanasi. And this book by Diana Egg is wonderful because it captures all these myths of Varanasi. It's an extremely important city for Indians. And for Hindus particularly. It's also a quintessentially Oriental city. In the eyes of the West, in the imagination of the West, this is what makes up the Orient. This is the city and its images that make up the Orient. You can see here a painting which is showing a scene from Varanasi. Last Journey, it's called. Here's another. This is also another portfolio of drawings done in the 19th century by James Prinsep. And this is magnificent portfolio of drawings, etchings that made the imagination, in the imagination of the West, this is what created Varanasi. Okay. Many people from the West, of course, have written about Varanasi, and Mark Twain is, of course, famous for his saying, which says, Banaras is older than tradition, older even than legend, and twice as old as both of them put together. But, he was not such a reverential visitor to Varanasi. He's also written that Banaras is the headquarters of the Brahmin faith, and 1/8 of the population are priests of that church. But it is not an overstock, for they have all India as a prey. All India flocks thither on pilgrimage and pours its savings into the pockets of the priests in a generous stream which never fails. So, of course, Mark Twain has also a sort of a slightly critical view of this place. It's a city that has been continuously built upon. You can see here a magnificent view of Varanasi. What's important to remember here is that nothing that you see here is more than, what shall we say, 300 years old. This is all built upon very recently. It's an ancient city, but a lot of it is newly built. Here's another great image of a temple that has been built over by houses, encroaching onto the temple. You can see here, continuously built over to serve a variety of agendas: political, religious, commercial, administrative. It's a city that is continually built upon one layer upon another upon another. This aspect of Varanasi gets captured extremely well in this book by Madhuri Desai, which is called Banaras Reconstructed. And I think the operative line here is Kashi may be an ancient site, but it is a reconstructed Banaras that contemporary pilgrims and visitors encounter. Varanasi is also very dense and severely stressed urban settlement. You can see here it's really dense. It's populated, and it's got no space here at all. It's extremely polluted, the Ganges here, and that is another aspect of it. Now let's talk a little bit about the precinct in which the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir is located. First, I want to talk about the terrain, then the temple and the masjid, and the precinct, and some attempts to improve the precinct in the past. So here we are once again. This is Varanasi, and the area that we are talking about is this spot here, just a bit north of Dashashwamedh Ghat here, and you can see here there is if I come a little closer down here, you can see there is this is a 30-40 foot wide road, and this is the precinct that we are talking about. Here you can see in the drawing, you can see the street is called Godalya Marg. Then you can see the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, which is really tiny, set inside that landscape there. The masjid next to it, which is the Gyanvapi Masjid. Then there are two narrow lanes that lead down to the Ganges, Nilkant Gully and Goenka, and the other gully across. The Goenka Library you can see here, and Chhatralay and various other. Right at the Ganges here is the Manikarnika Ghat, which is really famous. This is a holy place. That is the place where all Hindus want to be cremated. The terrain here is the area we are talking about. First of all, is about 350 meters. That's the distance between the temple and the Ganges. About 150 meters across is the area that we are talking about. So it's a pretty tiny site from one point of view. Here you can see Gyanvapi Masjid on the left-hand side, and you can see the Ganges on the other. So there's Gyanvapi Masjid. There's the Manikarnika Ghat at this end. The terrain is interesting. I mean, you rise up from the Ganges. You rise up almost 100 feet or 80 feet as you come up to the temple. Actually, it's a hill, and you come up on top of the hill, and then you have to descend to reach the temple. So the temple is not atop the hill, but slightly on the other side of the hill. Here, the temple, right next to the temple, is the masjid. And whatever I'm saying just now is going to be picked up from whatever is mentioned in these two books here by Dinah Ek and Madhuri Desai. Here you have 11th century. You have first evidence of the construction of Vishweshwar Temple by Harichandra. 1194, the temple built by Harichandra was destroyed by Kutubuddin Aibak. Then in 13th century, the temple was rebuilt by some Gujarati merchant. Once again in 1351, the temple was destroyed by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Then in 1585, Todarmal rebuilt the temple. And in 1669, the temple was once again destroyed by Aurangzeb. And on atop that temple he built the Gyanvapi Masjid. So it has been destroyed a number of times and rebuilt a number of times. And here's an image from Princess drawings of the part of old Vishweshwar temple behind the mosque. You can see that was the plan. This is a reconstructed plan drawn by Princess, and apparently the masjid sits in exactly this position here, as you can see. And okay, and that's where the masjid sits on top of the temple. Actually, the masjid, the back wall of the masjid is the old temple, as you can see in this picture very clearly. So here's the old temple and the masjid right next to each other. Then in 1780, Ahilyabai Holkar built a new temple right next to the mosque. So constructed it on besides the mosque, built a new temple. And here's a contemporary drawing, bazaar print of Ahilyabai Holkar, and here's an elevation of the temple, as you can see. Then this temple has been then been added to in various ways. 1828, you have Scindia constructed a low-roofed colonnade. You can see the colonnade on the right-hand side here, right behind the Nandi, and that colonnade is important because it has the Gyanvapi bell there. Then in 1836, Maharaja Ranjit Singh donated some gold, and the temple was two of the shikars were coated with gold, and so. In 1992, when the Babri Masjid was demolished, the Supreme Court mandated that the Gyanvapi Masjid should be protected and that a barricade should be built around it. So the government built a barricade around the mosque, and this is a more contemporary picture of that barricade. So that meant to protect the masjid. And you can see a view from behind the masjid here. Masjid is on the left-hand side, around inside the barricade. And on the right-hand side, you can see the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir. Right in the foreground is the colonnade that was built over the well. Here's another view of the masjid and the temple sitting cheek by jowl here. And here's another view of the temple. You can see it's surrounded by a very by a Parasail, which is very, very small. So there is an ambulatory on all sides, a colonnade on all sides, and very, very tiny, tight space. Literally thousands and thousands of visitors come to this small spot, and on special occasions there are hundreds of thousands of people who descend on this spot. So it's a big logistical, security, etc. nightmare for anybody who's managing the temple. Here you have a drawing. Here's the masjid in red, the barricade around it, and the temple that you can see. That's the key issues. Now, if you look at the precinct, the area around the temple, this is what it looks like. It's really densely built. You can see there are many temples. Every corner you turn, you will find some small temple or some idol. You have temples that have been built over like this, many of them. You have narrow lanes. In fact, on the right-hand side this is the parisar of the temple, and on the left-hand side is the shops, and people go past here to the right-hand side. These are crowded lanes, lots of people here, and long lines of pilgrims. This is what you will see everywhere. You will see that it's a low-income neighborhood. It's not really a high-income neighborhood. There are some nice houses, but a lot of the houses in this area have the character of being temporary or built not very well. There are many homeowners and tenants, original owners who live here, but normally they are tied to the temple economy. But most of the people living here are tenants, and there are many shopkeepers, as you can see here. You can see there are many priests, there are many high priests like this, and there are itinerant sadhus who walk around the place. Crowds of pilgrims, especially on special festival days. On the Manikarnika Ghat, you will find cremations 24/7 going on. Piles of wood all around. Lots of tourists you can see here. Taking in the exotic nature of this place. You have policemen everywhere because this is a security risk area and this is policed heavily. You have lots of checkpoints, lots of lines of pilgrims like this. there is a lot of filth also. This is a very messy area, very poor infrastructure, and many animals here adding to the filth in this area. Many places where you have open gutters. So this is by no means a sort of a clean, hygienic area. Many ad hoc encroachments you can see here atop a very beautiful structure. Here you have encroachments of low-income houses. You have a complete lack of sewerage. You can see, like in a train kadibba, sewage is dribbling down the sides of this beautiful building. You have many unsightly infrastructure works out here. You can see this pumping station, sewage pumping station, which is really, blocking the view of a beautiful building at the back. And it's a messy area. There are many there have been attempts to improve the precinct. There have been, in 1790, public toilets were introduced by the British administration. In 1822, James Prinsep mapped the city of Banaras. Prinsep was this great administrator that Banaras remembers very, very, very much, because the first person to map the city and to start off the first engineering works here. In 1823 to 67, urban sanitation schemes were created here. In just later, design for citywide sewerage was built. Here are some drawings from some public works that were proposed to drain the talabs here, and this beautiful drawing here. Gandhiji visited this area in 1916 when he went to the opening of the Banaras Hindu University and made his famous speech, first big political speech that Gandhiji made, and that was at this place. And this is what he had to say, and I think it bears going over it. He said at that time in 1916, he says, "I visited the Vishweshwar temple last evening, and as I was walking through those lanes, these were the thoughts that touched me. If a stranger dropped from above onto this great temple and he had to consider what we as Hindus were, would he not be justified in condemning us? Is not this great temple a reflection of our own character? I speak feelingly as a Hindu. Is it right that the lanes of our sacred temple should be as dirty as they are? The houses round about are built anyhow. The lanes are tortuous and narrow. If even our temples are not models of roominess and cleanliness, what can our self-government be? Shall our temples be abodes of holiness and cleanliness or not?" This is a question he asked in 1916, and he wanted to see some improvements. Unfortunately, nothing much came about. In 1926, the Sudhar Trust was created to prevent pollution, and a committee for local improvement was set up and to create embellishment of create signature spaces here. None of this really happened. 1959, you have the Varanasi Nagar Nigam established, ad hoc improvements were done. More recently, you can see this electric crematorium that has been built here. In the monsoon, the water goes right up to the top near that temple. Up to this level. During the monsoon, the water is up to this level, and so they need to create a crematorium that is up there. There's sewage pumping station like this was built. These are the sort of infrastructure additions that have been done, but it's really left the area sometimes quite unsightly, not very good space. Finally, in 2018, which is just a year ago, the Kashi Vishwanath Special Area Development Board was established. This is the latest attempt which I'm going to talk about to try and improve this area. Now, this area that has been taken up for improvement is redlined here. That's the jurisdiction of this authority. This is the area that has to be taken care of to start with. And this is 8.2 hectares of land here. So it's not a very large area, but very special. Now, the mandate of the board is to develop a master plan for the redevelopment of the special area, purchase properties in the area between the Mandir and the Ganga, clear the area and redevelop it comprehensively, to provide a setting befitting the significance of the Mandir, provide amenities necessary for the comfort, safety, and security of tourists and pilgrims, provide a pilgrimage path leading up from the Ganga to the Mandir, provide settings for social, cultural, and civic exhibitions, improve ghats with the precinct, along the precinct and restore them to their former beauty. So this is the sort of clear mandate of the board. And we were asked to develop a master plan for this area, and that's what I'm going to describe next to you. So here's the area. The master plan has been evolving over here. Very first one we did looked somewhat like this. We soon realized that this sort of a minimalist intervention is not going to work. Then we decided that something little wider was necessary. We changed to a slightly different one, and then yet another, and yet another, and yet another. Master plans evolve like this over a period of time. As we get more and more information about the area, more and more information about the requirements of the place, more and more concerns, different, a master plan is made to change actually, and it evolves till it reaches some final stage. And so finally, we are at this stage. That's what the master plan looks like today, the block plan, at least. And if you look at the trees here, and if you look at it, the figure ground, the ground floor plans of all the various facilities, that's what it looks like. I'm going to describe this in detail, so I'm not talking about that just now. Here you can see another view. You can see the masjid in the background there. You can see the temple. Here's the masjid. Here's the temple. And that's the dense area. About 265 houses have been cleared. And the idea is to create a new precinct of this sort, a new space of this sort. So it's like an insert in the dense fabric that is being proposed here. Let me go over the master plan piece by piece. I'll start with the Mandir Parisar. That's where it all begins. And that's the portion, the yellow portion is the portion of the master plan that I'm talking about. So originally, that's what the mandir was like, and that red-lined area is the small surrounding area that consists of the actual temple and its parisar, its sort of space around it. Okay, and that's where everybody goes to, and that's what you can see here. That's the temple, tight space around it, and that's what you can see here in an expanded view. If you take a look at this. That's the axis along which the temple is built. And so we took these two squares, I think about 42 meters across, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, two squares, 42 by 42. And then we straightened it, this square, to be in alignment with the mosque, with the original mandir, with the colonnade structure that you see on top. Expanded that a little bit to include the colonnade structure within the parisar, and took that as the area that we would create around the temple for pilgrims to visit. And around that, a rectangular colonnade running all the way around with 4 gates at the 4 ends, and that the temple would be set within this. This was the basic scheme of the area. Here's the elevation. You can see the sort of the drawing at the bottom that tells you the parisar, and this is the front elevation of the parisar. Here's a view of it from the side. That's a stone structure that is to be built. If you look at that further, oops, I'm sorry. We're missing a drawing here, but that's an arcade that you have all around it. That's the rear view of the parisar, and a section through the parisar here. Now I'm going to talk about the Mundane Choke, which is this yellow area marked here. And that is the civic space outside the Mandir Parisar. Here you can see the rectangle that we have drawn around the Mandir to create the Parisar. And here you can see the addition, one more rectangle, and that's the civic space outside. The steps you can see, the vertical lines that you can see, those are the steps, because one part of this space is 10 feet above the other. That's the hill you walk down to go to the temple. That's the block of buildings around it, you can see here. And you can see here the ground floor plan, which is essentially got a lot of facilities, toilets, and locker rooms here. On the ground floor, on the floor above, you have emporiums and the gateway through which you enter into this space from towards the Ganga. And on the topmost floor, you have the trust offices and a gallery for view. Here's a section through the civic space. You can see the buildings on the two sides, and then the temple Parisar on the other side.
No, it's on the same.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a section through the civic space. You can see here the gateway coming down, and you can see the elevation of the building at the back. So there you have a view of the Parisar from the choke. The approach to this
transition is slow. Sorry.
The approach to this whole space is all the traditional approaches have been maintained. These are all the various lanes that lead up to the temple, and the same lanes are leading up to the temple. You can see here that's the main approach from the Godalya Marg. And you can see here that this is Godalya Marg. It's a very narrow street. You can see here, and you can see this that structure on the left-hand side is really from where you were entering the temple. In its place, you can see the plan here. The area will be changed so that you get a gateway and even an entry for emergency vehicles to come in here. And that's the other approach that is important, which is coming up from the Ganga, and that's the gateway through which you go. That's a section through one of the approaches from Godalya Marg on one side and the masjid on the other side, and this is another one. Yet another drawing of the gateway that leads up. And you can see the gateway has been made on axis with the temple here. That's the approach to the temple, to the gateway from the Ganga. And here's it's been modeled, of course, on Ramnagar Fort gateway. That's the traditional architecture and elements from there have been used in this gateway. And this is a little further down.
Change it. This is probably a very heavy image.
Yeah, I think you've used the high-res file. Can you move to the
it's come. So you can talk. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Now the important thing is the path for the pilgrims. You can see this in yellow here. That's the path that leads up from the Ganges Ghats all the way up to the. Presently, there are these narrow lanes through which you go up, and if you were to arrive by boat to this place, that's the view that will greet you in front of the gateway. So that's the view that would greet you if you were to arrive to this precinct by boat. And that's the boats that come up here. It's not very safe, not a very easy access to this precinct, as you can see here. These boats are all there. That's the next image. This next image is the set of steps that leads up. You can see it leads up. That's to the temple. That's what greets you first as you arrive to this precinct. And if you turn around and look at the Ganges, this is what it looks like. So actually, on your return from the temple, the view of the Ganges that you get is through this narrow slit between the two buildings that are here. Here's another approach to the temple from Lalita Ghat that you can see here. And you can see this is not that hospitable in some ways. Mm-hmm. Then you go up these narrow lanes all the way up to the temple. So that's the situation at present, and this is what we want to create in its place, a sort of a wide promenade leading up all the way to the temple, and that's another view of the place here once it's cleaned up and finished, and that's the steps leading up to the temple that you can see in the background there. Here are the steps on you can see in this image leading up, and the pathway is in some sense formed by the placement of the buildings. You can this image shows you the steps leading up to the temple, and you can also see escalator on the right hand side. So this will be a little more accessible. By no means it is totally wheelchair accessible, but it is easier to negotiate for older people if they want to. And that's the view that would greet you on the way back if you would to climb up and turn around and look. And that's the view of the Ganges that you would get on the other side. Then as you here you have a section through that pilgrim's path. That's the first portion of it. You can see a key drawing at the bottom here, and you can see the Mandir Parisar, the Mundane Choke, and the pilgrim's path that you can see on the other side. Here's another portion of that section that you can see here leading up to the Ganges. And that's a drawing escalators in these two spots. Of course, the paving here will be a big opportunity to do something interesting, and this one from Greece is a big inspiration for us. Cultural and civic institutions in this area. You can see here in the plan all these yellow buildings are different sorts of cultural and civic institutions. The very first set here, let me talk about right along the Ghats. Are really already pre-existing buildings that you can see here. The Jalasan Terrace that you can see, the Goenka Chhatralay, that's hostel, which is in disrepair just now, but will be restored, and the Goenka Library that you can see here. Presently, all these three buildings are hemmed in by development on all sides, and in fact, the Jalasan Terrace is encroached upon and built upon on top here, as you can see. So here you can see the Jalasan Terrace structure all encroached upon by sort of illegal development on top. You can see the library, etc. And this is the view of it from the water. Hold on. Yeah, that's the view you can see here. Not quite a shabby stack of buildings here. Actually, behind this is a beautiful old structure. That's the original view of the structure at the back. And if one were to remove all the additions, this is what one would find at the back there. This is the Goenka Chhatralay, which is not used just now, and can be restored and become a beautiful space. That's the Goenka Library, which is very much in use and will continue to remain in use as a library. And that's all of the three buildings, and that's what the plan of it would look like as we go further. Yeah. There you are. That's the Chhatralay, and that's the terrace, and that's the plan of it. Here is another heavy image coming up, I guess, of the view of this place. Good. So these are the three buildings that form these are the older buildings that will be restored. You can see here on the Ghats one place where a stage has been created for. We'll get to that in a minute, though. These are other cultural institutions here. There's a multi-purpose hall, spiritual gallery, city museum, a hospice. All of these areas are, all of these institutions. I'm waiting for the file to come up. Here is it. Here it is that you can see the different buildings and a section cut right through it. Here's a section across that pathway, and that's the buildings you can see here. And here's the gateway, the multi-purpose hall. There's provision of toilets in lots of places. Here's another view of that same image, of that same area. Then there's the Vedic Kendra and the spiritual bookshop. These are structures of this sort, as you can see. Vedic Kendra here, and the spiritual bookshop. And okay, now we come to the Ghats here, and the Ghats along the precinct. There are actually three portions to it. It's a long, there are lots of Ghats here. You can see first is the Lalita Ghat, where there's this big sewage pumping station that you can see here. And that sewage pumping station has to be moved so that we can create in its place a stage that might be used. And this whole backdrop, this building at the back becomes really visible, clean it up and bring it, restore it back to its old glory. Create some jetties here and a performance stage. And I think we have a view of that coming up, but that's going to, here you can see a section through that area.
And he jumps fast.
And there's a section through the area, and now maybe we go straight away to this image instead of the one in between. Okay, there you are. So that's the view. This other portion is a much simpler development. There's just steps there you can see in this area, just these sort of steps. This is where the Manikarnika Ghat is, which is can become quite messy in the summer. Because when the water recedes, it's not really a nice place. So that area will also be redeveloped and created anew, so that you can have a little more, a cleaner place at the very least. Then there's lots of pilgrims and tourist facilities out here. And these are all of them in the master plan. Okay, that's the pilgrim and tourist facilities that you can see. Many places for people to queue up. As you can see here, many places to leave their footwear, places to leave their bags, etc. Places to buy prasad, etc. Then we have facilities for administration and security facilities. At all these places, it's a heavily guarded place, and therefore they have to be provided. There are many temples in the precinct. When that area was opened up, a lot of old temples that were hidden away inside the buildings and hemmed in by development were now become exposed. You can see here many lovely temples that had been built over by houses. You can see the temples here, and these are the temples that were sort of built over. You can see this one on the left hand side. A whole room had been built, and the slab has been rested on the temples itself. Yes, so all these temples have been sort of incorporated within the master plan. The landscape here, there was not much landscape. There were just these few trees in the earlier landscape, and now there will be space for more shade. It's larger space, so they will also be there. And here you are. That's a view of the sort of larger planting plan for this area. This project has very special communication needs because people need to understand this. Here's the first thermocol models that we made of the area to start design work. Here's a 3D printed model of the same area that we did to get it going. Nothing like wood models to get a sense of what this place is going to be like. And here's what that model eventually ended up looking like. It's a beautiful model.
It's all
handmade, yeah. But in some portions of this model are, of course, CNC cutters, etc., can be used for that. Here's another view of the same model. Hopefully, we jump into that second view. And so we also developed a film for this area. Do you want to put on the film? Will someone?
Yeah, I think. I think this will be the last slide. Right. Thank you, sir. So, and thank you, Dr. Patel, for giving us some time, and I'm sure the audience appreciates very much. So, thank you so much. Thank you. This is over and out from Ahmedabad. Thank you so much.